and welcome to the Daily Space Weather. We're actually looking at 48 hours of the sun here, as we can't get the browse movies to work correctly. So let's get on with it, as there's lots of stuff to cover. There's the view in 171 angstroms. We do see some activity kicking up there in that North Pole coronal hole area, probably representing an increasing in the power of the North Solar Polar Field, and that's a good thing. Here's a view in 304 angstroms. This is also 48 hours, folks. Again, we're showing this as we can't get the custom movies to work right now. Some errors going on the SDO website. Not a lot going on. 0 sunspots. Radio flux has increased. And let's look at more data. Here's the totally blank visible disk. Again, 0 sunspots. No real coronal holes going on, although there is a coronal hole wind stream. A very weak one appears to be hitting now, and there is some plasma. So there's the plasma. Looking from stereo A's perspective here. And you see there's kind of like an ongoing plasma stream coming out there. Is it Earth facing? Could be. It's not showing up in the coronagraphs from SOHO, so it's not really expected to be Earth facing. Highly recommend you become a patron at the $9.99 level. Don't join the $1 level, folks, because that's going to be gone on Halloween. We're going to provide thrills, chills, and smashing and mashing prizes. Thanks to everybody who is donating, by the way. And if you're in the market for CBDs, why not buy them through our Hemp Lucid Spaced Out campaign? The Spaced Out campaign specifically formulated for our Spaced Out viewers, who we enjoy very much. Anyway, there are some of the products available. Again, check out the links below the video to all of these additional sites. Let's look at the real-time solar wind, which has just upticked from extremely low levels to just very low levels. Also, we see the phi angle here starting to shift, as well as the BTBZ in the last 4 hours. And you can see the solar wind speed has been dropping to 426 kilometers per second. And the density is only 1.48 protons per cubic centimeter, folks. That's not very many protons. And there's the data from the ACE. Again, 10.7 centimeter radio flux has come back up. It's now at 70. We did see a sudden spike to 74 there, a sudden uptick in radio activity from the sun there a couple days ago. 2 days ago, I think that was. Then it went right back down to 68. Now it's back up to 70. So for that, we thank you, as we don't want to see a solar minimum be too deep, as that's bad for your health. Speaking of things that are bad for your health, disasters. Let's talk about Disaster Preparedness Month, which is September. Let's talk about David Dubine's book, Climate Revolution. Let's read a passage. Stage 1, read history. The adage of hope for the best but prepare for the worst is perhaps the best advice to handle the coming economic Armageddon. Most citizens under the age of 44 have never experienced adverse economic conditions as a working adult, and most have no conception of how bad economic conditions may become in the coming economic crisis. And things are squeaking around me here, folks. I don't know what's going on. Reading about what occurred in previous economic crises, such as the U.S. Depression of 1921, the Great Depression of 1929, or episodes of runaway hyperinflation, such as in Weimar Republic, Germany, or current-day Zimbabwe and Venezuela, are likely to be your best guide to understand how the coming crisis may unfold. Food scarcity, folks. This will entail how unprepared people suffered, as well as how to best prepare, survive, identify opportunities, and take advantage of those opportunities. You want to buy the book? Check it out. There's links in the description below the video to that also. At oilseedcrops.org. oilseedcrops.org/climate-revolution book. I believe that is $12.95. So check it out. That book by David Dubine of YouTube channel Adapt 2030 and various other sites. Trying to get David on an interview. Shout out David. Give me a ring. By the way, if any of our viewers want to contact us, use smashomash@gmail.com. That's smashomash@gmail.com. That's the account associated with this channel. And planetary K index up to 1. We saw 9 hours of a KP of 0 there. And next we'll look at magnetosphere movies. First the density. And this is the last 4 hours, so this is just as that small uptick in density occurred. You're going to see fairly consistent magnetosphere here most likely. And indeed you do. Here's the pressure, very low, with that very diffuse solar wind. Despite the slightly above solar minimum condition, 450 kilometer per second solar wind speed. And once again, we see most of the magnetohydrodynamic pressure on the nighttime side, on the magnetotail. Next, we'll check out ground geospace magnetic perturbations. Yeah, the magnetohydrodynamics of the way things really work as current passes right through your planet. Give yourself a one-up and understand the physics of how these things work, folks. Here's the Ionosphere movie. We're looking at 6 hours here, courtesy of the Australian government Bureau of Meteorology. It's a bureau, not a chest of drawers. It's a bureaucracy. And for the Ionosphere movies, we thank you. And yes, if you're wondering, that is an homage to Daniel Tosh, who is awesome. Leave a comment, Mr. Tosh, if you're watching. Somehow I doubt you're watching. Anyway, there's the latest image for the Ionosphere. It's looking pretty charged on the sun side there, and it's looking pretty discharged on the night side. X-ray flux, we see some little perturbations there, and just in the last hour, actually, while I did show prep. Looks like I got X-rayed. And the electron flux has come off of its very high levels, and now it's just at high levels. We see a little bit of charging hazards there, mainly over Oceania, Northern Australia, etc. And let me take the opportunity to say Milky Way Galaxy Team for the win. If you're wondering where things are in the solar system, there's where they are. And there's where they'll be in 1 week, just coming off that full moon. And there's the greater than 2 mega electron volt electron flux. Again, we saw the highest level in a year there just about a week ago. And we saw major charging hazards associated with that. Please leave a comment if your satellite took damage or experienced what we call a CCD bakeout. GOES magnetometer is still looking spiky, as is the Gong 2 data. As the sun is having a little battle here. It's the North Pole is gaining strength. So that is a good thing, a sign of coming out of solar minimum. Because remember, folks, we've got a few years and we've got another solar maximum on the way before the next solar minimum. At cycle 25, it's already started. I mean, we saw the high latitude sunspot already, the clear cycle 25 high latitude sunspot. So it's already begun. It's just a matter of seeing 0 cycle 24 activity and seeing only cycle 25 activity. Here's where stuff is located above my head. Now I like to draw in the ecliptic. As my sofa faces to the south, the moon's just about to set. Check it out. Where will you be when Cygnus sets? That little star right there called Deneb. It's actually a giant, ultra-hot, crazy star. Enough said about that. Earthquake rundown. We see a 4.3 at Kamchatka. We see a 5.0 at the Sandwich Islands, which is behind my head there. Here's a deep quake in the Aleutian Islands, a 4.1 at Alaska. We did see a 4 magnitude quake there in California, not too far from Anaheim, actually. But we'll get to that in a minute. 4.8 in the North Mid-Atlantic Ridge. We've seen quakes there every day or two for the past couple of weeks. 4.4 at Indonesia. 4.9 at El Salvador. That Indonesian quake, by the way, was at depth 150 kilometers. 4.7 at Armenia. 4.7 at Indonesia. Nope, it does not say sombrero. 4.5 at the Philippines. That one's at depth. 4.1 at Japan. That one at depth also. So the earthquake risk is not expiring, folks. Continue to see deep quakes. Here's a 4.0 at Chile. Here's a 4.5 at the Philippines. Here's a 4.6 at Burma. You might call it Myanmar, but it'll always be Burma, to Jay Peterman. Here's that 4.0 at California. Please leave a comment if you felt the quake. Probably felt in Long Beach, Huntington Beach, very close to Lake Elsinore. Very close to Lake Elsinore there, near Murrieta, Temecula, etc. There's a location of that quake. And back to the list, so 5.7 hits Alaska, the largest quake of the past 24 hours. Let's check out that one also. The interactive map, this one occurring out in the Gulf of Alaska. West-southwest of Juneau. Please leave a comment if you felt that. And what was the depth of that one? It was near the surface, folks, and originally classified as a 5.8. We see no current warning, advisory, watches, or threats. And by the way, that quake occurred only 11 minutes after the California quake. Check it out. 2021, 2032 is the UT times for those two quakes. Here's a 5.6, the second largest quake, I think, of the 24 hours. So a pretty big quake uptick here, folks, as well as some additional volcanoes going off. We'll get to it also. 4.6 at the Philippines, 4.8 at Guatemala, 4.1 at Mexico, 4.4 in Nicaragua, and coming in just as I was making my coffee here, just a couple hours ago, a 4.5 at depth in Afghanistan. Heads up, Afghanistan, you're going to get a larger quake at the surface. That would equate to about a 5.4 magnitude if it happened at 0 kilometers or 10 kilometers depth. Now we've got a new volcano on the list here, Alade volcano. This is south of Kamchatka. It's a little volcanic island. This is a new one on the list. And there's a location of that. Can I get it? Oh, there we go. Nice. So basically just a standalone volcanic island there. That thing exploded and produced a 10,000-foot ash plume. Also, we see Mount Aso. And no, that's not a curse word. This is a vulgarity-free broadcast. Or I should say upload, as we're not live streaming. Anyway, possible activity continues at Aso, Mount Takono, continuous volcanic emissions and explosive activity, a 6,000-foot ash plume there. Popocatépetl exploding, 20,000-foot ash plume there. Revenador exploding, 15,000-foot ash plume there. Sabancaya also exploding, 26,000-foot ash plume there. Sporadic puffs. Jeez. And Novatos de Chilean, intermittent emissions and a 12,000-foot ash plume. Please do not fly your homemade kit helicopter over Novatos de Chilean. It will be an unhealthy moment. Shout out to the Himawari satellite. Check it out. Good times. And we're going to start looking at weather stuff. Pretty soon we'll have an intro tab. But for now, deal with this. There are your advisories and so on, weather.gov. Still some flooding going on in Montana. What's up with that? And I wanted to show you the null school 10 hectopascal view here. As we see spring hitting, you may have read articles, seen articles and clickbait headlines about sudden stratospheric warming over Antarctica. Well, this is the way the planet works. This is the high pressure, ultra high altitude winds here. And you can see some counter rotation starting to form in the northern hemisphere. That's called fall. And let's look at the jet streams as we normally do. I would note northern hemisphere jet streams are extremely disturbed. They're beyond meridional jet stream flow here. This is convective forces governing maybe a third of the activity there in the jet stream. And if you're a pilot, you are very well aware that some of these jet streams are going backwards. Here's the southern hemisphere, and it's starting to lose a little bit of its coherence also. So it looks like it's going to be a hot summer. And it's not due to carbon dioxide or global warming or anything like that. It's because the southern hemisphere gets the biggest temperature extremes. Anyway, there's the view from the west. And there's the view from the east. Check out lightningmaps.org the next time you hear thunder. It could save your you-know-what. Lightningmaps.org. Now, since I live in Antarctica, I always start out my windy.com experience in Antarctica. Maybe some of you have seen us on social media. Now, we can't list our real location, which is Vostok Base. So we just tell people that it's McMurdo Base. It's close enough. Only a few hundred miles away. Anyway, here's the current weather radar. We're looking at 6 hours of U.S. Doppler radar here. And it looks like some strong storms are just about to pummel St. Paul. St. Paul's going to get trained, folks. Shout out if you're in St. Paul. Duluth is going to get hit, but St. Paul is going to get hit directly. Look at that squall line. That is a serious squall line right there, folks. That is just piling up on St. Paul. It is going to train that area. If you're there, beware. Beware if you're there. And here's the zoomed out water vapor map. We're going to zoom in on that area in a moment. Man, that is one serious convergence. There's some dry, massive air there. And it's, oh man, that is a serious wind shear zone. If you're a pilot, don't fly across that wind shear. We got, this looks like African dust making it all the way to North Carolina here. We're going to have to look at the globe view real quick. And I don't think it's African dust. That looks like it's way down here in the South Atlantic. It's just some dry air, but it's moving in a very funky fashion here. There's a strong low here over places like Mississippi and Alabama. And this is a strong anticyclone here. As you see, it's got an overall clockwise rotation. It's going to be holding off the jet stream as a result. Then let's go back to the zoomed in view of Minnesota. Please leave a comment if you're big on fishing for walleye in Minnesota. Or please leave a comment if you know who does the voiceover for Plankton's computer on SpongeBob SquarePants. Anyway, there's that convergence zone, and you can see these areas right here especially. There is going to be wind shear like you would not believe in those areas. Just a straight up vertical column of air. All of these spots where you see this dry air right next to this wet air, massive pressure gradients and sudden vicious storms. So again, St. Paul, I would get in the basement. For real, it's pretty nasty. And thanks, Smash Team. We got one bonus feature coming up, so don't go anywhere. And there's going to be another video coming out about this sort of a subject. So stay tuned. And here's a 193 angstrom view. We do see a coronal hole there, very far south, right in this region. And otherwise, very low activity, folks. So keep an eye on that solar wind throughout the day today. Stare at the sun. Do so with the proper instruments, like a solar filter or the SDO. And since it'll never be now again, welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. May the solar wind be at your back and the atherosclerosis absent from your veins. Well, that's what happened. Where I got to go down the hatch. Get the son of a...